Hi, I'm Loran, and you're watching Between Pages and Friends. I crushed that. This is a podcast hosted by Con and Loran, two sisters from another mister. And John and Kyle, our rocks, our lighthouses in a storm, our one and onlys. I'm Loran.
I'm Kyle.
I'm John.
And I'm Con. Thanks for joining our Throne of Glass book club. In this episode, we are continuing the final book in the series, Kingdom of Ash, chapters 45 to 57. There will be no spoilers for future chapters here, so if you're reading for the first time or keeping pace with us on your reread, this is a safe space, and we're here for you. We're always here. Additionally, this is your mild content warning. We will be discussing themes from this book that include boys trying on boobs and, Aelin.
Boo. Boo. Boo hiss.
Tomato,
Boo hiss.
tomato, tomato.
Tomato, tomato, tomato.
But wait, there's more. If you'd like to get connected with a lovely community of other Sarah J. Maas loving friends to nerd out about these books with, check out our Patreon. Folks, we're practically giving subscriptions away for $5 a month in the snack court tier. But if you'd also like early access to new episodes, merch sticks...
Coming to a merch store near you.
Coming to you soon.
That was amazing.
We're getting some new merch
Let's put that in the bloopers.
for the adults. Part of our After Dark package. No pun intended.
100% off.
Velvet wrapped steel.
Oh, here we go.
But if you'd also like early access to new episodes, merch discounts, monthly book club, and we'll even throw on the extended warranty, you can join the Petring Book Club tier for $10 a month. You can find our Patreon in the show notes or description box below.
Oh, hey, didn't see you come in. I was so busy rating and reviewing my favorite podcasts. Did you know telling your friends and writing a review is the best way to grow our community? Well, it is. Gosh, it would be great if all of our booktastic friends would help us spread the cheer we so long to bring to the world, don't you think? Well, what's this? It's a letter. Oh my gosh, it's a review. I wonder what it says. This is from Klain. The Dr. Seuss rhyme got you guys a subscriber. Congrats. Looking forward to your thoughts on Kingdom of Ash. Wow, thanks, Klain. That means so much to us. From a special viewer just like you. Now it's time for the pronunciation guide. Over to you, Con Air.
That was
Amazing, Kyle.
One of your best yet. Well, for the pronunciation guide for today, I have the Lannis River in Paranth, and then Elgin, a captain of the Bane, and the one who called Aelin a whelp a few episodes ago. Fun fact about this one, it's actually not technically a new name. I think he was mentioned previously, but I missed it. But in this chapter section, I was trying to figure out who he was, because I highlighted his name, but I had to go back to the section to figure out who he was, and the excerpt says, Aelin was riding beside Killian when Elgin galloped up beside them, horse puffing curls of hot air into the snow-thick day. And I thought, is Elgin the name of the horse? And then
He was horse puffing.
He galloped up. He came up.
And then he told them, the river's 10 miles straight ahead. We have to make our decision now. Nay.
The centaur that for some reason talks like Mr. Ed, even though the top half is completely human.
It's like from Monty Python where he comes in on the little stick horse.
I was picturing the coconuts, yes. At first, I literally was like, is this the horse? And then the next line is him talking. I was like, wait, no. Okay, while I wipe these actual tears from my face, once again, it's time for our beloved chapter recaps from our beloved Juan. Take it away, senor.
Gracias, senora. And the battle rages in Aniel. Irene and the healers are kept very busy as the city has been under siege for 5 days. Kael even more so, battling the army. Hussar finally shows up with the host of Dargan cavalry and infantry. As the fighting pauses for the night, Kael and Irene join the Kagan royals for a war council, and someone very unexpected joins them. Aelin and the army are retreating. They make it to Baranth. Morath is close behind. Aelin plans to use the frozen lake and river to their advantage. They stand and fight, and as Morath cleaves the Bane's front line in two, Lysandra gets a crazy idea. She shifts into Aelin to rally the retreating forces to the front lines, knowing it will most likely be her death sentence. Two Ilkin attack her, earning a gash on one leg. As Aedion races for her, she takes down one, and closing in, he hurls the sword of Orinth toward the second, embedding in its skull. Freaking sweet. Anybody remember this moment in Braveheart? Know what I'm talking about? Not through the head, but
Right.
a very similar impaling. Anyway, as he grabs Lysandra to retreat to find a healer, a tower breaks the horizon, a witch tower, one that Manon had warned about. It's made entirely of wordstone. Witches are guarding it, flying around it. Others are on its platform. And Aedion watches as one starts to glow bright with power and fall to the center, the full power of the yielding unleashing right at its center, and it absolutely roasts 4,000 soldiers in one fell swoop. Yikes. And you guessed it, our surprise guest in the Ania war tent is none other than Aelin, Galathinius, and party. Her and Irene embrace after recognizing each other. Then she introduces everyone. Clearly many tales to tell between all of them, but it has to wait. We learn how they came to find the Kaghan's army. They talk about where the army will go after this battle, but that's quickly tabled. Then Borte and Falcon burst in. Falcon now looking his true age, and Aelin learns that he is Lysandra's uncle. Then Nezrin tells them all about what they found out about the spiders, the Vogue, and Maeve. Aelin then shares what happened with her the past few months. Once the shock dies down, they discuss their plan for the next day. Rowan consoles Aelin, and the Cadre have difficulty coping with the news about Maeve. Alid tells Lorcan in a roundabout way that she loved him. Over with Manon and the 13, they return to the Kraken camp from the Faring Gap. Dorian practices his shifting some more. We return to Aedion, tending to a recovering Lysandra. Her ruse is also up as the remaining soldiers now know who she is. And Darrow arrives in the makeshift camp and strips Aedion of his title as general and also takes the sword of Orinth. They head northward, but find a large river not yet frozen over, and with no routes open to head farther north, they are utterly trapped. Down in Aniel, Cale takes his father to meet Aelin, which is just a great scene. While talking about Maeve and Doranel, they realize that Aelin is pretty much next in line to be ruler of Doranel, apart from Rowan's line. Basically fairy queens of the East and West. Wizard of Oz spinoff, but Throne of Glass version, am I right? Yeah. Aelin, a musical, has to be. Aelin has another bad dream. Dorian shifts into a woman. One of the Kraken witches has some fun with Manon. Not like that. I just mean that she sniffed him out and knew it was him, and then they had a weird tease spat argument, okay? As the Krakens are about to leave camp, the 3 Iron Teeth matrons break from the skies and head straight for them. Manon fights all 3 matrons at once in an epic battle, eventually getting into a 1v1 with the Yellowlegs matron and chopping that head off. And taking back Rhiannon's crown that the matron was wearing as a mockery to the Krakens. She lets the Blue Blood matron live as a debt to Petra. She goes to finish off her grandmother, and her grandmother flees like the MFBW that she is. Yeah?
I don't know what that is.
Sound it out. You got it. The MF is pretty self-explanatory.
I got it.
Do the last 2 words rhyme?
They do.
Okay, I get it.
You got it.
Batch watch?
That's right, yes.
Batch watch?
Batch watch? Glennis crowns her once more, and they all kneel and hail Manon as Queen of the Witches. Aelin and the Cadre help themselves to weapons and armor from Aniel's treasure trove. They head up to the battlements to face the first siege tower, and just as it lands, Aelin makes a grand entrance and a grand statement, clad in armor and a crown for war, and they go to work on Morath.
Yeah, they do.
Nice.
Thank you. I learned it from you. Okay, chapter 40.
Sexually?
That was so delayed.
Oh, man.
Okay. Chapter 45. So many other jokes came to mind, but we just need to move on. Okay.
Prove it. Say them all.
All.
Lightning round.
Okay, chapter 45, third time's the charm. I think because I'm used to like watching fantasy, like this intensive fantasy, I think, in movies. I don't usually read more just like pure fantasy books. If I'm reading a fantasy, it's like very romantic-y and there's a lot more romance-driven stuff. So this is a lot more not romance-driven. What's the other word? Plot?
Is that what all the romance books are missing? There's like a story or plot or anything driving character development.
I'm crying.
You got yourself on that one.
I really did. Oh my God. Oh, that was amazing. Okay. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is I think that I forget that these battles last more than just like a movie scene. Because like in a movie, you know, I watched it for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and then it's like, cool, whatever. So like whenever we start the chapter, they've already been fighting for 5 days and we're like jumping into the middle of a whole week of them fighting. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like expecting to like just start out. Here's the battle and they all run into the center and they fight for 10 minutes and then like it's over. But this is not that. And obviously the rest of the chapters haven't been that either. I would assume the whole book is probably just continuing little fight scenes and long term more like this. But anyways, that was just like my very first note was like, oh my gosh, this is like a long time. This is not a movie. So it's a book, in case you didn't know.
First note. This isn't a movie.
What is this, plot?
I had to note here something about Hussar because it was when Nezrin was like fighting on Haruk. It says, looking to where the Dargan cavalry and foot soldiers charged for the unprotected eastern flank of Morath's army. Hussar atop her Muniki horse, leading the Khagan's host herself. And I was like, hell yeah! But also, about time he did something good for once, you bee. Just, I'm still pissed at her about her getting the letter from Aelin and like having it for 2 weeks and just like not telling anybody or not doing anything. So I'm like, just really honed in on that one.
Yeah.
Well, and then like Aelin asks about the letter too, and she's like, "Ugh, I get a lot of letters. I don't even know."
Yeah, she like played it off kind of thing. I was like, all right.
It's like the really popular girl. Did you text me? I couldn't even tell. There's so many coming in.
After she's already told everyone about the text message, though. No, but that was a really epic moment for sure in the battle. In, I think the last episode or maybe the episode before, I was theorizing about who, I think it was last episode, and Kyle and I were theorizing who would Kale run into next. And I was saying it would be Dorian, and Kyle was like, no, it's definitely going to be Aelin. Like, obviously, like, whatever. And I was like, no, it's not. Again, on podcast. And then recording. I told Kyle, no, you're wrong about the theory. And then, of course, Kyle was right about the theory. But at chapter 45, the very last sentence was, they had only a few minutes of discussion before they were interrupted by the person Kale least expected to walk through the flaps. And then that was it. And that's all we get from them for a couple chapters. And then for me, like reading only a little bit each day, I read a little bit more that day, but I didn't get to like who actually showed up until like a whole actual day away from when I was reading. And so it was like, what a cliffhanger, first of all. And then also I was annoyed that it was Aelin only because Kyle was right. Again.
Classic Kyle.
And annoyed with it. Anyways, in chapter 46, we jumped over to Aelin and his battle, and I was so invested in this scene with this battle with the like ice and them all running over the ice and then the magic wielders trying to keep the ice away so that all the Vogue people fell in, and like the whole time the other Vogue prince was across the way like smiling at Aelin and Aelin's like smiling back and they're having this whole like back and forth and whatever. So invested. I don't know why, but that scene was amazing to me. Then it was like that 2,000 of the enemy had gone into the river, but like that was barely a dent in the forces that were advancing. And it's like my head, I feel like, is not picturing what these battles really are. Like I hear these numbers and still in my head, I'm imagining like, I guess as far as like in my head, I can see, but still it's not, I don't know, 2,000, and then it's like, that's barely a dent. And then later it's like, they killed 4,000 people with the witch mirror or whatever. And I'm just like, that's like a lot of people. But also, Kyle and I live in a town of only 10,000 people. Yeah. So like, maybe it's our small townness that's freaking me out. And I can't have this concept of whatever's happening in this battle. But I don't know.
I had like the physically opposite reaction where I was like, oh, 2,000 people fit in this river? I was picturing a smaller river.
That's a good point.
So I had to be like, wait a minute, I
that.
gotta adjust. This is not like a little brook in a pathway. It's like, a big river.
That's a good point. Well, because it could still be a river to drown, like, deep enough and whatever to drown people, but not wide. So, yeah, that's a good point.
I also struggle to picture like how many people are actually there. And in my head, I keep going back to like, okay, how would I realistically like gauge a large number of people? All I know is that the theater at the school I work at seats 512.
There you go.
I'm like, okay, 4 times the theater.
Multiply that by.
That's how many people were in the
like
river.
that.
You know?
I was
Yeah.
just thinking like a stadium or something, trying to see how many people that would be. Or
It's like a whole Taylor Swift concert. That's like 20,000 or something, right?
Right? I think that's more like 20,000. Yeah.
Well, and to me, sometimes it's like the 2,000 died here, 4,000 died later. Obviously, we don't know how many they have. So I feel like that's a good way out of it, to be like, 2,000 people died, but it was barely a dent. So I could be like, oh man, they must have a lot more. But there's no, like, of course we wouldn't be given, by the way, Morath has this many people, so you can subtract every time they die, because I know exactly how many they have left.
Well, I think like Sandra did like an aerial view and counted or whatever. And it was like close to 20, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the number?
It was like an estimate, though.
Something like
Yeah.
Or could it be 20,001 if she counted wrong?
Why not 20,002?
Hey, why not 3? Just 3.
that. Just 3.
Just 3. But was the 4,000 that the witch tower took out, was that like the Vogue? Or was that,
No, that was
the good guys?
No, that was the good guys. Team Ass.
The quote-unquote good guys, to get political about it. Come
Forgot
on.
about them. Okay. I was just making sure, because that's what I thought. But then we were talking about the Vogue numbers going down, and I got confused. But I'm with it now. Thanks. Math is hard.
It is. But you know what's harder? Seeing the tension between Aelin and Lysandra over their stupid arguments.
Smooth transition.
Thank you. That's what my note in chapter 46 is about. I hate that Aelion's hateful words are still echoing in Lysandra's head. And that's what she's thinking about right before she essentially goes to die. Like she's kind of going to offer up her life by shifting into Aelin in this battle moment, basically thinking she's about to die. And those are the words that's echoing in her head right now. And I'm pissed about it. Rolling right into chapter 47, I hate even more that it took her nearly dying to realize he was being an idiot. And it kept saying in his POV, he took it back. He took it back. I'm like, you can't, dude. That's not how it works. And this quote in particular really got me when he was like, he'd make any bargain. He'd sell his soul to the dark god if they spared her. He hadn't meant it. He took it back. All those words. Useless. He'd called her useless. Had thrown her into the snow naked. He took it back. I'm like, I put the gif from that old commercial where the old lady's like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, when the first time he said he took it back, I literally went, "Oh, no, you don't!
Yes.
You can't do that." So annoying.
I'm pissed.
Yep.
But this is the part with the witch tower, and this was just like a huge impact part, even on a reread. So I had to put the quote in here where it says, "One heartbeat, their left flank was fighting as they retreated once more. The next, a wave of black-tinted light slammed into 4,000 soldiers. When it receded, there was only ash and dented metal." And I just wrote, holy crap.
Yeah, that witch tower is no joke. Also, the yielding itself, because that's the first time we've like seen it, was really kind of creepy. Just with her like on all the smoke or whatever he said that was coming over her and stuff, and then she just like jumped into the tower. How sad that witch or all those witches are convinced enough to literally kill themselves for Morath or for Erewhon or whatever is in their head that's like tricked them that much. Like it's just sad and it's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
My only note, kind of going back to stuff that Lauren said earlier, 4,000 soldiers seems like a lot. That is literally what I wrote in my little note-taking part of the Kindle. But I was like, hey, it seems like a lot. Very even number, too. I don't know if that's actually how many. Just like happened to get exactly 4,000. But it got me thinking, what's the point again? Like, I know that it was at some point about Maeve's husband trying to get back to her for whatever reason. But didn't it say, though, that Vogue just, like, were conquerors of worlds? Did it say to what end they conquered? Or do they just break worlds because they can? Or is it, like, food to them? Or sport? Or overpopulation issues? I can't remember why they do it. I know that they go to worlds and ruin them and turn them to darkness, but I can't remember, like, the motivation behind it.
I'm pretty sure they only went to other worlds looking for Maeve, and then, like, on their way, destroyed the worlds or whatever, because she was
Is that
there.
true? Because I thought they had the ability to do it before, and they were like...
I don't think they knew how to
had
do it
done it
until
or
she did it.
Well, she found it in his books. Her husband's
Yeah,
books about how to do
he
it.
didn't take the time to read or whatever.
Oh, he's just a trophy collector is what you're saying. He doesn't actually read the books.
He's
just a man. Men don't read.
Well, and like...
I say to my
I haven't read a word of it. They did go to other worlds looking for Maeve, and I guess along the way we're like, she's not here. By the way, we're killing all of you. But like, was there a reason behind killing and destroying the worlds? Because it does say that they did that. Or were they just conquering for the sake of having them? Because right now I was just having a hard time finding the motivation for why they're doing this, aside from Maeve and just being trapped here.
Okay, I'm searching.
I thought it said something about like them just going wherever until they got to this world, and the Fae were
Yeah, they
able to like
challenged
fight
them.
back. So I feel like now maybe Erewhon's just like revenge or something.
Oh, maybe. Because he's trying to bring his brothers back too, but I'm like, well, why? Like, don't you want to just get Maeve and go home? Why bring them back instead of just pushing her back in?
Also, they don't know that Maeve is the Vogue Queen lady.
Yeah, which is so dumb. That's so dumb of them.
He could just be like, "Oh, she's not on this world. We're going to the next one," or whatever.
Yeah, and why
And
didn't
like
they
join
do that?
his brothers.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. It was just a momentary where I was like, why are we doing this again?
Maybe you could jump in the book and do an on-field report with Erewhon.
I already did a mail joke. I can't do too anymore. We just got a subpoena.
You're on it tonight, Kyle.
I was trying to find it. I can't find the part where it talks about whatever happened before Maeve came into this world. It does say that I think it was that she was just kind of bored, and that was more of her reason for coming into this one. But then it was saying that the Jonas Brothers were ripping through worlds to find her. So I do think that it is kind of like a vengeance sort of situation.
Like they were mad at her for leaving. And Maeve, if I'm not mistaken, wants to just stay. Like she just likes the world the way it is and doesn't want to be with her husband or his brothers, right?
She likes the world the way it is and the one that she forced into people's mind and created herself.
Yeah, the one that she controls, obviously, but she doesn't want to destroy it. She just wants to live her best life and only her best life.
Right. Which still makes her a villain.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
I mean, it's a relatable villain, let's be honest.
Leave me alone and let me nap.
I was just curious. I couldn't remember in the moment or when I was writing notes, so I thought I'd ask to see where we were all at on that.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'd have to do some more reading. I feel like it would take me a little bit longer to find the specific answer, but join us next week when we talk about it more.
Or leave a
I'll do
comment,
it.
because I'm sure there'll be a lot of
Yeah, I'm
things.
sure someone
True, the
knows.
hive mind.
They're already typing as they're watching this, going, Kyle's such an idiot. And I'll be like, yeah, I was.
Clearly
You
written
read
right
the
here.
book.
I know what happens next. I don't know what already happened. I lose it as soon as it comes through.
Intense. Honestly, that explains so much about you. Like, you learn someone's name, you don't remember anything about them. But you could look at people and be like, I bet this guy's going to do this, this, and this. And then it happens.
Oh, yeah. So many times we meet people and I learn their name and I'll turn to Lauren and be like, I don't remember who he is, but he will die in 3 weeks.
And then they do.
And then they do. And she's like, you have to stop saying that.
You're like Bruno and Encanto.
Anyway, moving on to chapter 48. This is like the discussion. They continue in the tent after Aelin shows up and starts talking with people. I know she's faking it here, the swagger, as they call it. But that's like a lot of winking is what I noticed mostly. She winks like every I don't know, every other time she talks to someone. I was like way more than I think anyone else has done this whole series. And it makes me surprised that not more people are catching on to it. And those who don't know her must think she has like a twitch, and like Fenris is in the corner trying to like translate, like, what is she trying to say with the winking?
We only talked about 2 eyes, not one.
Oh, that's amazing. Maybe the like excessive winking was supposed to be like a tell to the reader that she wasn't being normal,
Yeah,
or something.
a call for help.
Like she's clearly acting different or something.
Yeah, well, it got me because I was like, she is winking a lot. Every time she looked at someone and said something snarky, I was like, you don't have to wink to send it home. You could just say sarcastic things and they'll get it.
It's funny too about this section because Kyle tried to talk to me about this at home, where he had only read up to this point and I had read all but the last chapter at this point. And then he was like, do you think she's faking it here? Because, and starts going on his whole thing about winking. And I was like, how far are you again? And he's like, they're still in the tent. They're talking. And I was like, okay, please read the next chapter. And then we'll talk. Because she goes outside and she's like, can you tell I'm faking it? And like says it straight up text. Like, I am clearly faking this. And I was like, don't want to spoil it. Just read the next chapter.
No, yeah. The only reason I asked her too is because I was like, she is winking a lot, but she did just have like really good news meeting Kale and stuff. So I was like, maybe there is a little bit of hope there, but she's winking a lot. I guess that's a red flag.
She also got a lot of bad news, like about
Yeah.
Maeve and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. What I freaking loved about this chapter was Irene seeing Aelin again and telling her all the things she'd done since they met. I freaking love her. I highlighted basically everything Irene said, and it like almost made me cry. She's saying like, I didn't waste any of it. It was just so sweet. This is probably one of my favorite Kingdom of Ash moments, was their little reunion.
Yeah, I was like, there was so much hype for this one.
Yeah.
Like as soon as Irene even showed up again, just to like have them meet again. So I don't know. It was really cute and I'm excited. And now I just need Dorian and Kale to meet and then I'll be happy.
And they're going to fall in love.
They already are.
Oh man, I'll have to send it to the group after this, but I saw the funniest TikTok about Dorian and Kale today about their bromance.
Sounds great.
Cool.
Can't wait. And drop it in the Discord chat too.
I
when
will.
This episode
Yeah.
comes out. Anyways, the thing I highlighted during this conversation, of course I highlighted things about Irene and Aelin too, but it was when they're like introducing everyone and she introduces Gavriel as Adian's dad. And the only thing Gavriel says in this entire chapter is, Adian is my pride. It's like, bro, if only you knew who your son really was, because he's the worst.
I highlighted Adian as my pride and I wrote, why though?
Oh, poor guy.
If you're listening to this and you love Adian, if you're an Adian girly, will you please comment and explain why? I just want to understand.
Are there Adian girlies? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I feel like one of my friends read Throne of Glass kind of when we started it, and she liked Adian, but I don't know that she's still an Adian stan. I'm not sure.
I do feel like people have different takes on the book when we've read it so spread out
Yeah.
and so thoroughly taking notes. Because like there's been
Definitely.
a couple comments too about like how perceptive Kyle and I have been, or I don't know how their feelings about a character or whatever. And I think some of it is like we take such intense notes for the podcast, and so I feel like I've gotten in the habit of looking for every little tiny detail when I don't normally read books like that, and I have
Yeah.
to stop myself from doing that in other books now because I go to like highlight and I'm like, nobody cares if I highlight this.
Yep.
I can stop. But also like something maybe like Adian, like I could see like if I just like went through this book and I was on pure vibes and I just like read through this thing like I would a normal book. There are times that he is really cool and epic, and like him throwing the sword and like doing the things like in the same chapter. And then I could overlook maybe these like couple little moments here and there. I could see
Yeah.
that for other
Yeah.
Adian girlies out there.
See, I don't know if,
But
I mean, coming from a not girly, but I don't see if I could, like, because I would have to separate,
Hey,
like, yes,
Adian's bi, so
that's true. Oh, maybe that's why he's
got a chance.
his dad's pride. It's just a supportive dad.
oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's it.
Anyway, I think I would have to separate him being like a great warrior, and like, yeah, he does. He's a good fighter. He's throwing swords. He's holding shields. He's wearing armor, taking hits, whatever. Not a great guy, though. Like, he's very over-promise, under-deliver. Every moment, like, really committing to the bit. And then as soon as it's, like, time for the punchline, he's like, oh, never mind. Yeah. I can't do it.
That is a good point, though, Lauren, because the first time we read the series, I mean, it took us probably 4 months to get through it. John and I were still reading it together, so like I was still going slower than if I would have, flew through it on my own. But I don't remember being an Aelin hater, really. Like I was more indifferent toward him, I feel like, through the series. But now I'm like, I don't know, man.
John, how did you feel about him on your first read? Because you were, like, Lysandra was your girl.
Mm-hmm.
So how was his actions toward, like, did you feel the same way you do this time, or do you feel different?
I feel it's like definitely a stronger negative emotion. I think it's kind of the same as Connor said, like, and I think to your point, Lauren, too, because we're doing the note taking and things, we're like able to reflect on it more strongly. When we stop reading, we have like the break until we record. We have that time to like process like everything that he said and like think on it, and you're just like, dude is whack. He's not it, man. It's rough. It like starts off okay, but then all this stuff with him going off on her all the time, it's just like, oh, dude, like, come on, man. Yeah. Definitely a lot rougher this time around.
Mm-hmm. But even with like, yes, Aelin, but even stuff that we said early in the recordings with, different takes on scenes and characters and stuff. And then we come to later parts, and then obviously our views on those have changed and we talk back on it. But like, we'll get like comments and stuff like, no, we love this scene. Like, how could you ever think that? But it's like, you, person commenting, you've read this series like 6 times, and I'm so happy for you. You know what's happening and like have the whole perspective, but like Kyle and I don't. And so there's, certain things like that too, from that perspective, where, we are literally just sitting with the information that is talked about in these episodes, and our hot takes are maybe really bad or really hot takes. So I don't know. There's that in our defense. But anyways, my last note from chapter 48 was whenever Aelin walks in and she's limping, like they're still doing this like whole intro thing, and Aelin comes in, Irene's attention shot right to her leg, to her ankle, and I highlighted that because I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe Irene is gonna heal Aelin, and then Aelin will be able to walk like normal or whatever. So I'm excited for Aelin's future healing potential after war, I guess. Anyways, chapter 49, this is another yay moment because I was so excited for Falcon because I had been waiting for that moment. The spider died like 2 or 3 episodes ago, like a really long time ago. And Falcon has just not shown up at all. And so glad when he finally walked in, and he was looking younger. But they're doing this whole introduction of people. Falcon is there, and Falcon is recognizing her as the thief. And she was like, I hope it wasn't your horse that I stole or whatever. And the next sentence was, the young man's eyes darted over her face, then landed on her enormous emerald on her finger and the even bigger ruby on Goldrin's hilt. And I just thought that was weird. Like, of all the things for whoever's POV that was to notice, was that his, like, what he looked at was the giant rubies in the room. And then I was like, is Falcon like a thief? Am I supposed to not trust him? Is he, I don't know, he was just this random dude that showed up and was wanting to be like young again. So now that he's young again, is he going to go off and go rogue? And
I'm wondering if he's just kind of like, he still has that kind of merchant mindset. So when he sees something like that, he's just like, what is that kind of stuff? Especially after he went for the spider silk and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point with the spider silk and the money.
Yeah. Or maybe he traded the years of his life to the Vogue spider, and the spider died, but the years still belonged to the Vogue. So now he's part Vogue and got those Vogue years back.
Would be bad.
What a plot twist. What a hot take.
And for that has nothing to do with rubies. I don't know why I said it. This Vogue just likes rubies. He doesn't want anything else but money.
And men, apparently. Oh. I thought this line was funny when they're all like in their little reunion moment. Aelin like sits down on the couch and Rowan lays a hand on her shoulder. And when she looks up, she found him near laughter. What's so funny exactly? She hissed. Rowan smirked. That for once, you are the one who gets knocked on your ass by a surprise. That just made me laugh out loud.
It was about time.
It was
Somebody
about
did it.
time.
Yeah.
And I love that Rowan just like thought it was hilarious and was like laughing at it.
Yep.
I had a quote from Nezrin, the very last quote in the chapter, I believe, where she says, talking about the spiders, they do not answer to Erewhon. The Stygian spiders, the Karankui, answer to their Val Queen, the only Val Queen, to Maeve. And I was like, I understand being dramatic about reveals for the reader's sake, but it feels like an awkward way to talk in person. It felt very like Bond, James Bond, and it seemed very cheesy to me.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty epic. She had a long time to hold on to how she was going to reveal this information to people, and she lived up her moment.
She
The
did.
only other way I could see it is like, if maybe she thought they already knew, she was like, they answer to the Vol Queen, the only Vol Queen, to Maeve. And they're like, oh!
Yeah, that's
Actually pretty good. I like that. I'm just going to assume that's what happened.
That's headcanon. When I listened to this part in the audiobook, I was like, oh, cool. And then, but with the way you read it just now, it just reminded me of Hot Rod, where he's like, I know. I checked online.
Oh, man. Exactly like that.
That takes us into chapter 50, where they're talking about Maeve being Vogue and just like her whole setup in life and how that changes their point of view of Maeve. And it was Sartak who said it's also why she fears fire, why she fears you so, to Aelin. And then Aelin says, and why she wanted to break her, to be just like the enslaved healer bound in owl form at her side. I forgot that the owl was like actually like a person for a little bit. And so I wrote, who, insert owl noise here, is the owl? And is the owl going to be some big like reveal person later? Dun-dun-dun.
Is
John?
it?
I'm going to go with yes it is after that reaction. So I guess we'll find out.
Guess who can't remember anything?
I'm on another... I guess I'm on Hussar this episode a little bit. I have another note here. This is after Aelin tells all of them about what happened to her, and kind of at the end, it says, then Hussar hissed, we'll make that bee pay for that too, won't we? And I read that and I was like, honestly, a little surprised, maybe even a little weird that she has this sentiment in this situation, especially after the whole letter thing. I'm just like, why do you care so much now? Like, why do you have such a strong reaction about, like, what happened to Aelin? Because you clearly, like, are terribly indifferent, especially after the letter. I don't know. I thought that was kind of dumb.
Well, and her whole girl power sister vendetta thing was against Erewhon for sending the Volg with, like, Duva and Tumaloon and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it is, that is a good point that, like, I just love that she's just, like, hopping on the hate train.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just because Aelin just walked in and they had this like cute little interaction and was like that they liked each other, and then all of a sudden Aelin shares this like sentimental story of, this is what all just happened, and was very open about it. So now she's doing the same girl train. Just, don't come after my ladies kind of energy.
Yeah. I feel that.
This is a random theory of mine. This is completely in my own head. I have no other facts about this other than maybe 2 sentences. So this is from Rowan's POV, and he was talking about Aelin whenever she left the tent and how she hadn't been using any of her magic and any of her fire, and he was like getting worried about her for that. And it said occasionally he'd spy Goldrin's ruby gleaming while she held it, as if fire glowed in the heart of the stone, but nothing more. And so after that sentence, there's a few other times that it talks about like Aelin touching Goldrin and how it like warmed in her hand, or she was like feeling stressed, so she put her hand on Goldrin. It makes me wonder if she's like channeling her magic into the ruby. We don't know that it can do that, I don't think, technically, but it is like a magic sword that was around back in the olden times when this whole thing started, so I feel like that would make sense. Maybe she's like channeling her magic into there since she's not using it in some other way, and then it's going to be like some big epic blast of power later. So that's my theory.
I like that. I didn't think that deeply about it. And if it tells you how little I remember, or how little John and I both remember about this series. I read the part that you mentioned about Goldrin like warming in her hand, and I looked at John and I was like, "What's up with Goldrin?" And he was like, "I don't know."
Nice. So maybe I'm just onto something, and maybe this is just completely random, and she just really likes to hold Goldrin. I don't know.
I love that though. I think that would be really cool. I hope it does happen.
Thank you. Maybe she like uses this big blast of power in like the witch tower or something like that, since she doesn't have a yielding. That would be cool. I don't know where else you'd use a blast of power. I mean, like, other than, like, obviously on the battlefield. I don't know.
Wherever you want.
I don't know. I guess wherever you want to be. Anyways, that leads them into their conversation where she does express, like, could you tell I was faking it? I just love that she has somebody that she can break down with, being Rowan, and somebody she can be 100% real with. Like, I really like that about her and her character and just them as characters, because I don't really feel like we see that from everyone that's going through stuff, that they're 100% themselves at any moment. I feel like there's always something they're kind of hiding, because like even with Kale and Irene, she's still kind of hiding the pregnancy. There's little things here and there. So I just love not that she's going through things, but just that she has someone when she's going through things. And so whenever she was just like, I'm just so tired, she wept, I'm so tired, Rowan. And that part just, I don't know, really got to me, and I almost cried there. I did not actually cry, but I almost did.
Fun fact, I had forgotten that in my first read of Kingdom of Ash, I kept track of when I cried and how many times. I literally have a cry counter saved in my phone. Yeah, from my first read of Kingdom of Ash. Nice. And so far, I've been on track with all the times I cried the first time. I also cried on my second read, but this was one that I did cry on my first read, and it didn't quite get me this time. But I typed in here the quote where she says, "I can't feel myself anymore. It's like they ripped me from myself. I'm so tired, Rowan." And that was my quote that made me cry on my first read. So that's not a cry counter for me this time, but it was the first time.
Yeah, because it's a good moment. It's a sad moment.
Yeah. I was also still like pretty postpartum when I read this the first time. And I had a really awful birth experience and a really, really hard recovery. And so, and then our baby never slept. So I literally was super tired.
And you feel like the baby ripped you from yourself.
Yes.
I get that.
A little bit.
Much.
Yeah. So that was part of the experience the first time.
Is no joke.
No, it's not.
Okay. And then the last quote that I have in here was just, I think just an answer to last episode. We were talking about like, why didn't Aelin offer the blood oath to Gavriel? And we kind of like theorized and whatever. And then it clearly put it where Gavriel asks, why didn't Aelin offer me the blood oath? And then Rowan answers, because she won't do it until Aedion has taken the oath first. To offer it to you before him, ... She wants Aedion to take it first. And then Gavriel answers, in case he doesn't wish me to be near his kingdom. And then Rowan responds, so that Aedion knows she placed his needs before her own. So, cute for Aelin. Does she really want Aedion around forever?
I'd take Gavriel at this point.
Would too. But, you know, we'll leave it up to her, I suppose.
If she wants to offer the blood oath, I get it. And while we don't have a blood oath to offer you, we do have a great deal for you from Book of the Month.
That's right. If you're like us and always looking for your next epic read, Book of the Month is here to make it easy. They carefully curate the best new releases across all genres each month, so there's no more endless TBR scrolling or decision paralysis.
Fantasy, thrillers, romance, you name it. Book of the Month has something for every reader. We're talking high-quality, hardcover books delivered right to your door, so you can build your dream library without breaking the bank.
I am super excited about my December Book of the Month pick because I likely would not have found this on my own, but it's totally my vibe. It's called The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. It's described as Knives Out with a holiday rom-com twist. Immediately, yes. I cannot wait.
Right now, you can explore the December titles and get your first book for just $5 with the code TINSEL at checkout. And with the holidays right around the corner, new members will get a little something extra this month. You won't want to miss it. So use code TINSEL, that's TINSEL, to join Book of the Month today for just $5. Use the link in our show notes or the description box below to get started. Chapter 51. This is Aelin and Lorcan, and they're having another one of their enemies to lovers, hopefully one day, argument. Aelin was trying to understand, like, Lorcan's whole connection with Maeve, and because she's now Vogue, and that whole whatever. And she says, I'm just trying to understand how you could love a monster. And he says, why? He pushed into her space. She didn't balk one step. Indeed, her eyes were blazing as she hissed, because it would help me understand how I did the same. I was like, oh, Aelin, she loves him. They're so in love.
I loved
I'm
this
a
part.
fan.
I had the opposite take. I am like a fan of their relationship. I'm sort of like overhearing about it though. I'm kind of like over the scenes of their like, oh, but you went for her. Like, oh no, I would never. Whatever. They have such little reason to be together in the first place, aside from circumstance. It's been when they decided to enter into a relationship a couple weeks, and now it has been months of this. They were searching for Aelin and like this stuff, and like conversations we probably missed, a lot of conversations that never happened. It said if they end up together, great. If not, oh well. They're literally the first person either would possibly be interested in after lifetimes of varying lengths of being stuck in situations where relationships were basically impossible. It's like walking out your front door and being like, that one, and fully committing to it for no reason. Just play the field a little bit. Go to college. There's other people in the world.
Go to college.
Spring break.
Go to the tour chessmate. No, but what is it that he makes her feel something that no one else ever has or whatever?
No one else has tried.
He's 500. He knows what he wants.
It's the first dude who tried. It's like literally.
I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about him.
Oh, well, same thing for him.
He's bedded other females.
Yeah, he has. Ooh. All I'm saying is let the burn be slow and let the enemies become lovers. Just let it cook.
Yes.
Leave it alone. And I'm sure we will be rewarded later.
I have no problem with slow burn or enemies to lovers. However, I do have a problem with what is essentially miscommunication, which I know is another big red flag for you. And that's all this came from, was a miscommunication of her not understanding him and him not understanding her during that one scene, and literally months of being like, well, you can't believe you crawled for her. Like, but I didn't. Lorcan no crawl for Maeve.
Kyle, stop.
It's just a lot.
my
It's a lot
gosh.
for that. I'm like, it has to be over it.
As much as I hate a miscommunication trope, this one is at least like miscommunication because both of them like love each other so much. Like on both.
Yes.
I feel like on both. I mean, I know that doesn't
I'm
make
with
it
ya.
okay. Like obviously it's still an annoying miscommunication, but it's not like one of them betrayed the other one, or like, I don't know. Sometimes the miscommunication tropes really are terrible, and you're like, should you get back together though? But this one's
Sure.
like, she was so into him that like she was just super jealous, and then he was like so into her that he did all this crap for her that had terrible consequences. Not that I'm defending this in any other situation.
Yeah.
But
Well, and also, in their defense, what you are saying is like both of them haven't had a relationship for like a lead for literally ever, and for Lorcan, anyone that he would try. And so it's like they literally don't know how to relationship. Like, they don't, neither of them know what they're doing. So it's like, let them, I don't know, fumble around a little bit and they'll figure it out. They'll be
I
fine.
would buy that for Lorcan. I won't buy that for a lead because she is so intensely good at reading people. She knows how relationships and people work in relationships.
But does she? She's never really seen people in a relationship though.
She's literally locked in a tower.
There's a certain understanding that comes from seeing people in the worst relationships that tells you what people in better relationships are like. She has seen the worst the world has to offer and understands that there is an opposite end of this. That should be how it is. However, as I said that, I self-actualized because as a counselor, I don't do all the best things that people should probably do that I was trained to tell other people to do. So, in that respect, you could be the best relationship guru in the world and probably still fail your own. So, I will give Aelin that.
He's self-actualized.
She does know relationships at least better than Lorcan, who's like, I don't know, a brainless sausage who just kills people.
Lorcan is more than that. A little bit.
Yeah, Kyle, he's
Big
hot.
old meat suit.
Big ol'
Hot sausage.
suit. Yeah, don't you remember when Aelin had to ground that beef?
Man. Anyway, my point is, maybe I'm just sick of all the relationship drama between him and Aelin, Aiden and Lysandra, a little bit of Doria and Manon, to be honest. I'm like, can someone just move on? Like, past, everyone's on a hump and I don't want anyone to be there anymore.
Yeah, but if everyone's happy, it's also not fun.
That's true. I didn't say they have to end up happy. I just said they have to end it some way or another.
To be fair, we're right around the halfway point in the book right now. So there should be some tension in terms of
So
like
it is the
the
hump
arcs.
zone.
You know, it's the hump.
We're right in the Wednesday of this book.
The hump before the hump.
Heyo.
All right.
My gosh, guys.
Move on.
Well, what
it is.
sucks is that I literally just spent the last however many minutes defending them, and then my next note is also kind of bashing them. So my bad. But
Oh my gosh.
he says, "I'm sorry for all of it, Aelin." And it was there he had said it. He laid it out before her. "I'm sorry," he repeated. But Aelin's face did not warm. "I don't care," she said, turning on her heel. "And I don't care if you walk off that battlefield tomorrow." And so I highlighted that and I went, "Okay, Aelin," because that's literally something he would say. And so as much as I freaking love them, I can't excuse this after literally spending the whole episode talking bad about Aelin as well. Like, this is not cool from her. He literally is apologizing. He is Lysandra and she is Aelin. And I just hope that she, like, it doesn't take him almost dying for them to come around. Like, I just don't think I could accept their relationship when I so actively can't accept Aelin and Lysandra. Like, if it's happening the opposite way, just because I like Aelin and Lorcan more. Love Lysandra. I just really don't like Aelin.
Do you think it's funny that, like, immediately after it, Gavriel's like, "Why'd you say that to him?" Like, he's trying to, "Why you being so mean to my boy?"
My boy.
Maybe Gavriel needs to go help Aelin and Lysandra next.
Yes.
He's like everyone's counselor.
Maybe.
Yeah. It, at least with Aelin and Lorcan, there was an actual relationship of some sort. There was like a mutual, you know, like it had actually turned into something. And then even here, like, she walks out. I mean, she definitely should not have said that. But then she walks out and she immediately in her POV is like, "Nah, I shouldn't have said that. That was a lie." So
Yeah, but she doesn't say it.
I know.
She doesn't turn around and apologize.
I know, and she should have, but I think it feels different because of that, because they actually did, and she also just admitted that she loves him.
I like she, like, realized it in the moment, too, and it, like Lauren said, it wasn't him dying, where she was suddenly like, "Wait a minute, I didn't mean that at all."
That's true.
Like Aelin.
I don't know if I would say that they had an actual relationship.
Well, they
That's
were
kind of what
that-
I was saying.
I think that's stretching whatever they had going on
Yeah.
quite a bit.
In the marshes.
in the marshes. Maybe not a relationship, but at least a mutual, like, trust, and then, I mean, making out and doing some other stuff, apparently.
But, like, has Lysandra ever admitted attraction or affection toward Aelin? I can only remember moments of, like, him over-promising and
so.
under-delivering, but, like,
Nope.
generally letting her sit next to him when she was an animal, and she, like, would maybe nuzzle up to him as an animal, but never verbally said in the common tongue, "I appreciate you as more than a friend."
Yeah, it's been mostly like him pining after her for the most part.
I think after Sculls Bay, and she was saying, like, "I'm not okay," or whatever, and they had that, like, little interaction on the boat. And I don't think she straight up said like anything, but just said, I think there was something that made him think that they would be more, or that she was saying.
But I mean, that's on him.
She would one day get there, kind of a thing. It just wasn't right now, or something like that. I feel like they had a conversation.
Yeah.
And then whenever they were fighting on the boats right at the end of Empire of Storms, and she like snuggled in, and he was like, next time do that when you're a person or whatever.
But again,
so,
as
like,
an animal.
snuggled. But that's still
they've snuggled before as animals, but or not him, but like as her as an animal. But yeah, she said like, oh, I'm not ready yet, or like, oh, I'm not okay, is not the same thing as saying like, I eventually want a relationship with you.
Yeah.
You saying like, I'm not ready right now should not ever give the hint to anyone that like, you should wait for me, because it just means they're not ready right now.
Yep.
So that's what I was wondering. Like, Lysandra never, I don't think, put forward that vibe to Aelin as a human. As an animal, sure. But that mostly, I think, was on him, too, because he hung around her so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would almost consider it more meaningful when she did that, like in those moments when she's shifted, because she probably felt more comfortable, like in whatever form she was as a shifter than she was like human form.
As a female going up to a male,
Right.
probably,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I do think while she never really made any declaration of interest, I guess, I think she was starting to trust him, and I think that's why she felt so betrayed. But I think it was mostly on his side, because he spent so much time trying to get her to trust him, to get close to him, and then he made that whole big declaration of love and like that he was going to marry her, and then he did that. And I think like her not trusting men for so long, and then finally starting to like maybe get close to him or feel a little vulnerable around him or whatever it was, and then to like be betrayed like that really sucked.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
because I bet, and my note for this was kind of around the time where she did admit that she wanted it to be him, like her future or whatever. But I would have to think that a lot of it comes from Aedion's probably not the first guy ever to say, oh, I'm going to marry you, I'm going to treat you right, you're the best lady ever or whatever, and then eventually leave. But probably the most trusted man in her life who's ever done that. So I could see how that would take a little extra out of her, like stuff that she's used to hearing but not used to accepting, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, the note that Kyle's talking about is in chapter 53, which we just kind of jumped into. But this is jumping back to Aelin and Lysandra after Aelin literally carries her off of the battlefield from her pretending to be Aelin and getting attacked by the Ilkin and stuff. And so she's waking up, and it just said she knew that voice, she knew that scent, a clear brook and new grass, Aelin. And I went, candle!
Man, I'm really dropping the ball on these, man.
Clear brook and new grass.
What does
That's a good
new
one.
grass smell like?
That's a good point. I don't
Like,
know.
that is a good
fresh
point.
cut grass, I know. I don't know if I've ever smelled new
Like
grass.
dewy.
You got to get right up in the
Maybe.
roots.
Well, she was just on the ground whenever
Earthy.
she was
Maybe she's
attacked.
just
So
smelling
maybe
what's
she
still-
just, yeah.
She's
maybe it
smelling
was-
dirt.
That's what Aelin smells like.
That earthy smell. It's like salty, earthy.
Sort of bloody vibe.
Smells like a dirt bag, basically.
There it is.
Sarah knew what she was doing with that one.
She did. She really did. I just had a quick note when she asked, like, they all know, solemn nod from Aelin that they knew she was a shifter. I was like, oof, that's got to be rough on everybody.
Well, and because she was planning to do that for her literal entire life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for
And now that
like,
whole plan is just like shot.
yeah, after however many weeks of her trying to do that.
I already said
Come on
this
now.
note. This is
He
what
already
we're
said this
talking
note,
about
Connor. It's on you.
Oh, it's me. Okay. Well, let me get ready for this one then. Because I am here to hype up my girl, Lysandra. Also got to read her quote because I freaking love this from her. This is Lysandra speaking her mind to Aelin.
Yeah, she did.
Saying, I have been degraded and humiliated in so many ways for so many years, but I have never felt as humiliated as I did when you threw me into the snow, when you called me a lying bitch in front of our friends and allies. Never. I was once forced to crawl before men, and gods above, I nearly crawled for you these months, and yet it takes me nearly dying for you to realize that you've been an ass. It takes me nearly dying for you to see me as a human again. Yes, girl. I'm hyping her up the whole time I'm reading this. I'm like clapping. I'm here for it. And then freaking Aelin. They finish their conversation. She says her piece. And then right before he walks out the door, he says, I meant every promise I made to you on that beach in Sculls Bay. And he walks out. No, you actually literally did not.
Mic drop.
He's like swaggered away from the tent. Yeah, that's right.
That couldn't have gone any better. Got her right where I want her.
He's out there going like, and she calls me back in 3, 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anytime now. I'm just a little early.
This made me so mad. And then I was just thinking back to what Kyle said about how it's like one extreme or the other with Aelin. There's like never an in between. So he literally, like, he just keeps going back and forth. This is so mind-blowing to me. And so just for funsies, let's revisit those promises that he made to Lysandra on that beach in Sculls Bay. He said, and I quote, "The useless sentries in the watchtower are now all half in love with you." He lied. So first of all, he made this up. One said he wanted to marry you, but you know what I told them? I said that they didn't stand a chance in hell because I am going to marry you, he promised her. One day, I am going to marry you. I'll be generous and let you pick when, even if it's 10 years from now or 20, but one day you are going to be my wife. Princess Lysandra Ashriver sounds nice, doesn't it? Like, he literally made that up. That that did not even occur to me. He made up this whole conversation and just told her. What?
This hurts a little bit because when we read this part, you were like, I'm not feeling it. I'm kind of like, I'm not getting a vibe, or like I'm cringing. And I was like, no, this is the cutest thing ever. Stop talking, Connor. I love this. But then when you just read the part where it was like, one day I'm going to marry you and I'll be generous. I'll let you pick when. And that, I was like,
I didn't like that the first time.
I don't know anymore.
It's so much worse on the reread.
I remember not liking that where I was like, I'm going to marry you. You don't have a choice there, but I'll let you choose when. You could either have 10 or 20 years. Right now, she's thinking like, yeah, 30 sounds great without you. Can we do 30? I also, speaking of Aelin losing things, I feel like losing the sword would have been a bigger deal to me if it did anything beyond being a slightly better sword. Like, I get that it's a family heirloom and things, but in terms of like logistics where we are in the book, I'm like, well, you could just go get another sword. It doesn't affect your capabilities as a person, so move on.
Don't you remember there's only like 2 swords? There's this one, there's Goldrin. There was that eagle one, but it's in the river now.
It's up for grabs.
And Nothung somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nothing somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's the only swords that exist.
Well, then get like a mace or something. I don't know.
Throwing stars,
Sure, they
maybe.
got some flails laying around somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep. But in that same conversation with Darrow, I was really glad that Ren was finally not agreeing with him, because I've been annoyed with Ren for a really long time because he's always been, I feel like, more on Darrow's side and like more anti-Aelin. And so I just appreciated him saying stuff like, you're going too far, or like, I can't believe you're doing this, and like those kinds of things to Darrow. I just never know if I can really trust him all the way because he had always been closer to Darrow. So this made me like Ren a lot more. I already do like him, but like I want to like trust him, I think, as a character, I guess is what I'm saying. And then I really do appreciate that he's helping Lysandra and she won't talk to Aelin as she doesn't need to ever again in her whole entire life. And so Ren will like trot his little horse over and tell Lysandra's thing, and then he'll trot back over to Lysandra and say what they said and then come back over. Exactly. He's kind of like the little messenger between them all. I just love the way he's treating her. I like Ren. is what I'm here to say. I also just read a book about a guy named Ren, and he was really cute. So I like Ren. There you go.
Okay, go Lysander.
There you go.
Because of other book. And then we randomly, out of nowhere, in the middle of this chapter, get this little subsection of like a totally random POV of a soldier in the army, I guess. And he's like a brand new soldier. And why are you laughing at that, Kyle?
I don't know. You're just like a soldier in an army, I guess.
Okay, today is Veterans Day, and I just sang the Army song, the Marine song, the Navy song, the Air Force song. And so I was like, I guess he's in the Army, right? He's not in one of these other branches. That's what my mind was just now.
Not in the Annual Air Force, which I guess would be the Rooks.
Thank you to all our veterans. Anyways, so, thank you to all our veterans who listen to our podcast.
It was more the thanks to all our veterans. Anyways.
Edit this part out, Connor. Okay. So we get this random POV of this new soldier in the army. And it was just really sad because he's literally brand new to the army, and him and his buddies came to serve, and all of them have died. And he is the only one left at this little campfire, and was talking about how others were talking about leaving, and just like, I don't know, just like a random POV of the culture or the energy that's happening in the army right now and what they're all feeling without Aelin, and learning about Lysandra and that whole thing. But it just had that he had sworn an oath to protect Terrasen, to protect his family, and he'd hold to it, even if he knew he'd never see them again. It was just really sad. And we haven't had like a random POV like that since Calicola,
It's been a while.
when that one slave rebelled, and then they literally killed all the slaves from all the places. So I don't know, that one threw me for a second. Like, it took me a little bit to realize what was happening and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I didn't hate it. It was sad though.
You know what I didn't hate? In chapter 54, when Kale and Irene had their conversation, I just wrote, Kale and Irene forever. Because they had such a good little talk.
We do love them. Well, and I just love that they're both happy about the baby. Because I feel like anytime you read about a pregnancy, or it happens in real life, or it happens in a movie, like one of the two people, if not both of the people, are mildly freaking out to a certain extent. But instead it was just like they were just both happy to have it. And like she cried tears of joy when she found out she was having the baby. And then he's just like happy for her. And they're just like hugging it out and all the things. And obviously there's like stress in life, and you're going to have your freak out moments because parenting is basically a long freak out
A
moment.
breeze.
We say after you've spent the night in urgent care with one of our children. Anyways, I don't know. I was just happy for them.
And they did, like, each individually have their worries, but you got both their POVs where they were saying, like, he was concerned about dying because it meant both their lives, but he didn't want to mention that to her because she had so much else on her plate. And she even had things that she was like, oh, I don't want to mention this to him because... And they only expressed the joyous parts of it. Had a nice little talk and teasing each other and joking. It was nice.
Their little banter is the best.
It is. Love Happy Kale. And just love Irene all the time.
Yes. She's the best.
Okay, this part where Kale takes Aelin to meet his dad, this was so hilarious to me. I was cracking up at this because Elizabeth Evans did such an incredible job narrating this part. But when Kale's dad says, "This is my keep," Aelin made a good show of gaping at the ceiling, the walls, the floors. Is it really? Like Irene and Kale are trying to hide a laugh. Like, I don't know what it was about this line in particular, but I just was cracking up, and the narration's so good. If you haven't listened to the audiobook, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I feel like that was like the first thing he said to her, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like right at the beginning.
Which I thought was awkward anyway, where like the door opens, he looks at her, he's like, "This is my keep."
It gave me more of a "this is my swamp" kind of vibe.
Yeah. What are you doing in my keep? I just thought it was funny. Like I don't know if it was nerves for him or what. Not even an introduction, just "this is my keep."
She's like,
feels like when our yeah.
It's like the kazoo kid. Like that meme, the kazoo kid guy.
Right.
yeah.
The little blonde boy, you know what I'm talking about?
Anytime our toddler will come up with a toy, like she has this little puppet monkey, she's like, "This is my monkey." Great. What do you want me to
Happy
say?
for you.
Good for you.
The good monkey.
No, you say, is it really? Wow. Okay, my last note from this chapter is just another answered question. I think, again, last episode we were wondering about if Aelin was the queen of Doranel. And then we get the answer here, and it said, since Maeve is an imposter, who would rule Doranel if she is banished with all the other Vogue? I think it's a lead that brings up that question. Rowan says the throne passes through the maternal line to female only, or it should have. You're the sole female with a direct, undiluted claim to Mab's bloodline. And then I believe it is Gavriel who says she is the fairy queen of the West. And then Aelin says that Celine should take it and that she could be the fairy queen of the East. And John already made the comment about the Wizard of Oz, but that is all I could think here, was that she's the Wicked Witch of the West. I was like, oh, why she gotta be the Wicked Witch? But I don't know.
The fairy queen of the East, bro.
She came down in a bubble, dog. Oh, man.
But that is basically what that is.
And into 55, things get a little interesting for Dorian when he shifts into one of the Kraken witches. There's a line in here that says, then there was the matter of his breasts, which he never imagined to be so ... cumbersome. And I just thought him turning into a female is just wild to me. I don't know.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. I guess so.
Those breasts really do be cumbersome, though. He's not wrong.
Well, just ask Lysandra. She
Yeah.
made her
Yeah,
smaller.
that's true.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So-
Yep.
He should have taken some notes.
Has she gender swapped in this story or no?
Yeah. She did in the bonus chapter whenever they went into the little town
Oh, yeah.
to get
Oh, that's
supplies. And she
right.
was a
Yeah.
big old dude and had to go buy their supplies and stuff. And then Aelin goes to the fountain with the
Big
little girl.
old dude.
I mean, that's what it said. And
He
she was
was,
like,
yeah.
swaggering in and whatever. The whole vibe. I have a picture in my head.
That's funny.
Anyways.
And then in the same area right there, it says, and then a few subtle pats between his legs had told him enough about the changes there. And I wrote, not Big D anymore. It's a pretty funny moment there with him.
Keys, phone, wallet. Nope, not there.
A little pat down. Make sure you got it all.
I had just a couple of quotes from this chapter where Manon, after she finds him in his female form, says, I would have thought you'd pick a prettier form. And Dorian says, I think she's pretty enough. And I was like, R.I.P. to the witch he basically copied. Like, Manon are just ripping into her here. She's like over in the bushes being like, oh, man. They don't think I'm hot.
This gets interrupted by the 3 high witches coming to the camp, and it takes us into chapter 56. And the very first line is, the 3 high witches had come alone. That just blew my mind for this whole interaction. I was expecting any of the other witches to show up, because for how safe I feel like the matrons have been, or we remember that time when the grandmother came to Morath for the first time, and we talked about that cool scene where it was the 13 plus her whole coven all walking in together, and it was this whole big thing. And so I was like, there's no way they're alone the whole entire time. I was like, there's no way they're gonna show up or whatever, they're gonna start fighting and it's gonna be a whole thing. But no, they actually came alone, which is completely mind-boggling to me. And I have absolutely no idea what their thought process in that would be. How they think that would go. Because even if all the other witches didn't respect Manon's fight, I guess, in that moment, and they all started fighting too, did they just think they were stronger than the entire clan of the Krokens that were there, and Manon and the 13, and I don't know. That just shocked me. The whole chapter, I was waiting for the other witches to show up, and then they never did. I don't understand.
I wonder how much of it was because the grandmother knew that Manon knew her intentions were crappy. She had tried to tell some of the other witches already, and then she even tried to say something about it to her grandmother in this moment, and the other 2 high witches didn't bat an eye at it. So she was, I don't know, it was something where she was noticing that her grandmother must have really had her claws in deep, for lack of a better term. But I don't know. I don't know if it would be to save face with like all of the other witches, just in case Manon said something or like showed them up, or I don't know. But it is like that's the heir of each clan. That's like their whole purpose is to protect the matron. So yeah, it is like really crazy that they just came alone
in the middle of the camp. Like they didn't even try to be like, come out of the camp and meet us in the middle of the, like the middle of the field or something.
3:00.
It could have also been in like a show of power, I guess. Like they just were that confident, and because they didn't know if the Kraken witches had bought this claim that Manon has on the Krakens, like they were showing up to go head to head as like queen to queen almost. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's an interesting thought.
I just think it was stupid. Because one of them died. So clearly it wasn't a good choice.
Well, they were also the newest one, weren't they? The newest matron. Because the other the yellow legs one died. So they...
Yeah, the yellow legs, they're losing
struggling.
their legs.
losing their heads over this.
I just had a note that I thought this was kind of interesting when Manon's like facing off with her grandmother and she feels like two people standing at her shoulder. It says that it's like her parents whose spirits lingered at her side, who might have been there all along, leading her toward this, and who had not left her even with death separating them, which I thought was kind of interesting because, like, obviously I'm always on God's watch. This isn't necessarily that because her parents aren't like gods. But this also made me think of the three-faced goddess because that's the one that's kind of associated with Manon. And so it's interesting that it's like her facing off with her grandmother, but then there's two spirits or whatever you want to call them beside her. I don't know. I wasn't totally sure what to make of this. I just thought it was interesting.
I think I took it like how Aelin's mom just randomly shows up sometimes. And that also doesn't really make sense. They're just like random ghosts, I guess.
Yeah. But like she never knew either of her parents. So that is kind of interesting. Because like with Aelin, I feel like her little encounters with her ghost mom are usually based on conversations that she had with her. Like they all kind of start the same way. But
like a memory?
Yeah. But with Manon, it's like, I guess she would never hear their voices. She knows it's them, but we don't know if they, talk to her, if she hears their voices at all, but she never actually met them because grandma killed them right off the bat. So
it's like when Harry Potter looks at that one mirror and his parents are behind him.
The mirror of Erised.
You know? Yeah. It's like, you know what I'm talking about?
I sure do.
Yeah, just the battle was freaking sweet. And I just have the quote in here when like Dorian is watching her fight and he's saying, he's like, never seen anybody fight like that and how like fast they were moving and all this stuff. From Dorian's POV, when he says, "Gone was the witch who had slept and wished for death. Gone was the witch who had raged at the truth that had torn her to shreds. And in her place, fighting as if she were the very wind, unfaltering against the matrons, stood someone Dorian had not yet met, stood a queen of two peoples." And I was just like, this is so freaking epic. And against all three matrons, like, are you kidding me? And I wish Sarah described all the fights in Throne of Glass like she did this one. Well, she did, like, all the Manon fights, really, she described in, like, not like a lot of detail, but way more detail in general. And I wish she would have done that just throughout all fights. That'd been sweet.
Second to that emotion.
Yeah, because it's like this one is like just enough detail that you can picture it well, but she's not taking like too long for the scene. She's like describing it well, takes the time that she needs to describe it, and then she, gets resolved however it is resolved or whatever. But
I wonder if part of that may be because it is Manon fighting three people versus our other scenes we're getting are like, I have to make sure I write down what each of these 8 characters is doing during this. And
that's true.
Sort of that intensity might get lost in that. Because I felt the same thing for a while with the larger group, like when they were out at sea and like every fight sort of checked in with everybody. You didn't go into much detail. But with Manon, throughout her whole story, has basically just been her. And we have had that more...
mostly
intense
one-on-ones.
Writing. Yeah. And I prefer that sort of writing as well.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, after the fight, and she literally cuts the head off of the yellow legs matron, and she picks up the crown, and it said, "The crown's light danced over Manon's face as she lifted it above her head and set it upon her unbound white hair. Even the mountain wind stopped. Yet a phantom breeze shifted the strands of Manon's hair as the crown glowed bright, the stars shining with cores of cobalt and ruby and amethyst, as if it had been asleep for a long, long time, and now awoke. That is so freaking epic. Such a cool description. Mm-hmm. And then for Glennis to kneel and said, I hail thee, Manon Crocken, queen of the witches. So cool. She calls her by a different last name. Oh, I was so hyped. I highlighted this, obviously, because it's freaking amazing. But do you guys think that the Phantom Breeze was like Dorian on the side being like, oh, yeah, you're so cool.
I was gonna
Phantom
ask,
hands.
I think it was him. Just like, let me get that hair out of your face. Billow in the breeze.
Did not catch this until you were reading it just now. And then I was like, oh, Phantom Breeze.
I know.
Yeah, if it weren't for that word, I wouldn't have thought of it. I was like, oh, maybe Dorian's just helping her look epic.
Look cool.
That's
He's
so
like
cute.
down there holding the fan.
I love that.
Such a good boyfriend on the side. Love it.
In chapter 57, back to Aelin, I just wrote classic D&D mentality, this group saying, this douchebag Lord of Aelin wants us to help, so I'm pretty sure we could take all this cool stuff. And I love to see it.
I didn't know how I felt about that because I was like, that's kind of rude, but at the same time, like, he's a jerk. I mean, it's more rude to Kale, I feel like. They could ask Kale. It's his house, too, but that's okay. They looked cool, and nobody seemed to care, so.
I mean, if they're not going to use it for war, what are they going to use it for?
Right. It's like locked up in a room for no reason.
They could still ask. I don't know.
Sometimes
Fine.
it's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
That's true.
Yeah, maybe once they save everybody's asses with the armor on.
Hope you don't mind I used this.
Because if I didn't, this might not be here anymore.
That's true. Well, the Cadre goes outside to start fighting, and Aelin stays inside, and we get this really cool paragraph. He, being Rowan, he drew his sword, then thumbed free the hatchet at his side. Gavriel unsheathed twin blades from across his back, falling into flanking position at Rowan's right. Lorcan planted himself on the left. Fenris took the rear to catch any who got through their net. This is so cool. This is movie poster. I need one of these like hot Cadre posters ready for a war battle on my wall in my bedroom for me to like just kick my feet at and stare at like a teenage girl.
Hot
I'm
Cadre.
totally vibing. I'm here for it. Somebody please send me the fan art of this moment.
Hot Cadre. This time it's personal.
You're about to drop a new album.
I just keep picturing the Furious Five from Kung Fu Panda.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. This is cool. They were in animal form, so it's fine.
I know. It was when I started picturing them as the Furious Five in Air of Fire, where they all show up to the battle at Mistward, and they are in animal form.
Yes.
But now I can't get it out of my head, so...
And there's only 4 of
Valid.
them. R.I.P. Connell.
Yikes.
All right. My last note from this whole chapter section was just this very last section here, Aelin stepping out into the battle, I think is like the first Aelin POV or one of the first that we've gotten from her since she escaped from Maeve. I think maybe the only other time we've gotten one was her conversation with Fenris, but even then I think it was Rowan watching her. I don't know for sure, but I think this is one of the first times that we've gotten a POV from her. But I just love the way that Sarah writes this whole journey for her and how she's like clearly needed some time to process. And we're just kind of like watching it happen from the outside like everyone else is because she's really like, what's the word? Dang it.
Depressed.
Well, yes. I just mean like introspective, I
Traumatized?
guess. Like she's...
Oh, okay.
like she's been so quiet because she's just like processing it all internally is what it seems like. And so like we've all been kind of watching from the outside like everyone else is. But it was interesting that we like are finally getting some of her POV again.
Yeah. One of the very last things of this whole entire chapter section for this episode just said, Aelin smiled grimly. She'd bring them all down, then Erewhon, and then she'd unleash herself upon Maeve. And I was like, first of all, epic thesis statement. Second of all, just her going from just the beginning of this chapter section from just, I'm so tired, I can't do it, all the things, to not that she's 100% okay, but like finding some sort of motivation inside of her or some sort of hope that she can still do, bring all of them down, then Erewhon, and then Maeve, is just an amazing transition for her and just an exciting what's going to happen next. And I cannot wait. And we did it.
And that's the end of this chapter section. Let's move on to thoughts and theories for the final book in the series. Kyle.
As for my thoughts, the more I read, the more I find myself mainly interested in Westfall scenes or Minorian scenes. The other groups and people have their moments, but I just find myself waiting for it to switch over again. That's just kind of where I'm at right now, personal taste. As for theories, I feel like most of the things that I'm waiting on haven't happened. Like, a lot of stuff happened, but not a lot of stuff happened. I don't know how to make that make sense.
I'm so there with you.
Okay,
I feel
good.
like I read a lot, but nothing is happening.
Yeah, no big sweeping things have happened. So I don't really have much to say. I do feel like Manon and Dorian are in a slight funk. Probably will get over it because they're very to the point people. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I'm concerned that none of our main cast is going to die. And we get so many moments of concern just for another person or group to show up and save the day and swoop in. And surely someone dies, right? Not even the lock is oh, one of you's got to die, but I bet there's going to be a last minute no, JK, there's a special guest you forgot that'll handle it. And I just... I get that people don't want their comfort character to die, whoever that may be for you, but I feel like there's just no feeling of risk, and I want to feel risk, because every time there has been a feeling of risk, it's been just kidding, this group's here now, and they took care of it. This group's here now, we're all good. Yeah, I just want to feel
thrill.
like something is at risk. I want the thrill of it.
The thrill of death.
I don't want anyone specifically to die, but I feel like someone's gotta, right?
The awkward silence after you said that, though. We're all what? At least that's how I am. I don't want anyone to die.
I mean...
The risk, the thrill and the risk, Kyle, is will they, won't they, in their relationships. That's the risk. That's the thrill. Leave it at that. Give me the happily ever after.
I'm not ooh, what if they don't? I'm well, all right, what if they don't? It is
but
what it is.
If, Kyle? What if?
I don't know. I just want there to be an actual scene of finality with someone. Because so far it has been
well, it's the end of the series, end of the book, so
we're
going to get that for everyone.
I hope I get it. I don't think I'm going to get it with the lock. I feel like that whole situation, they're always oh, Aelin's, it's got to be me. And Dorian's nah, it's going to be me. And I feel like it's not going to be either of you, dude. There's going to be some third party that's going to be wait, I've been here the whole time.
It's Mort.
Thanks, Sam.
March to the rescue. And there's still the whole thing about I realize that the mark on her head is the mark of whatever Brandon and namelessness or whatever. So far, the only truly nameless things were, I can't even name them because they have no names, but the King of Otterlin and I'm pretty sure Kale's dad, which I don't think he's going to do anything good. So, but
does Kale's dad have a name?
I don't think he's been named.
I don't remember.
I don't think so either.
But the King of Otterlin obviously dead, unless he's gonna use the Force with Dorian on his shoulder.
I mean, all the other parents have.
That's true.
So
He's just Lord Westfall.
Anyway. What a loser.
No, that's his name, Lord. He's Lord Westfall.
Does his wife have a name?
Lord Westfall.
Carol.
Lord and Carol.
It's been a while since we've had someone with a normal name because those were the ones initially that kept dying.
Yeah.
True.
So,
Yeah, I don't think his mom has a name either. They're just Lord and Lady.
Okay.
Anyway, Loran.
I just feel like I don't have any thoughts and theories. I don't know. Like Kyle said, we read a lot, but nothing super happened other than watching a lot of battles and planning more battles. And that's cool, but I just feel like we're at the end of the series. And I'm going to say these words, and I know that I'm reading a Sarah J. Maas book. I so understand how the end of those typically work. But where I am currently at, my brain is not seeing how there could be any other major, like, reveals of anything. Because I just feel like we're at the end of the book, and we know, hey, this is how you're supposed to defeat the guys. And I'm sure there's going to be some small something, or even maybe some major something that's going to change how their plan is going to happen. But it's still going to end that way, assumedly, that somehow Erewhon is defeated, ? I would assume that's how a book is going to end. Or at least that some characters live happily ever after, and Kyle's right, like somebody might die or whatever, but I don't really know what to theorize about that. Other than just maybe reading it and seeing. I have like my random things about like Goldrin and maybe her like storing up power and that for something cool, but really I don't really know. So that's where I'm at. I don't know.
Are we reading through to the beginning of part 2 for our next section?
We're finishing at the end of part 1. So yeah,
well, that's what I mean. Like
Yes. Yeah. So I will say, for where we're at in the book, I think this makes sense because it's written in 2 parts. We are like getting close to the end of part 1, but that's going to be our chapter section next week. And part 1 of this book is really long because the book has about 111 or 121 chapters. I was trying to get it to like end at the end of part 1, but it's typically like, I feel like the end of a part, something happens, you know? So I think this just feels like a lot of setup. And then I think that makes sense for kind of where we're heading. So,
yeah. So maybe after next week, if there is a bunch of, I don't know, end of part 1 energy, and then that gives us more thoughts and theories. But right now, I'm just feeling like, cool, people
it's
are fighting.
It's a bye week.
It's a bye week on thoughts and theories.
Yeah.
It's fine. Same with a bye week on the cry counter. None of us cried.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Maybe something will happen next time. So,
yeah. So that's it for episode 28. Join us next week as we continue Kingdom of Ash, like we said, with chapters 58 to 67, which will bring us to the end of part 1. Before you go, give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok to stay up to date on our reading schedule and all things BP and F.
And don't forget to rep your favorite podcast with cute new merch on our website at betweenpagesandfriends.com, linked in the show notes or description box below. While you're there, go and sign up for our monthly newsletter and check out our Patreon for our community of amazing book aficionados. Till next time, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed.
Stay blessed, y'all.